Brilliant. Thank you very much. Okay, so thank you everyone for being here this evening. I'm going to do a presentation, Art, Ritual and Adinkra Symbols. So looking back at the history of my creative practice. I've done so much in my life that I'm not sharing everything. It's kind of like the highlights really. So I just want to get started, and here we go. So a bit about my background. So I was born in Liverpool, and this is my mum. Oh, I didn't want to go there. I need to go back. This is my mum, Lily. Oh, this is annoying if it's going to be doing that. Right, I'm not going to touch that. So these are some of my family. So I grew up the only Black kid in my family, in my community. And it was very difficult. I think I found it really difficult to like myself. I never saw anyone else who looked like me. My father wasn't around when I was growing up. Him and my mother separated when I was quite young. But I had this, if you see towards the bottom right-hand corner, there's an envelope with information, don't lose it. And it's all the information my mother wrote down for me so I could try and find my father, which you'll find out. Remember that, because that will mean something when we come back later. So I've actually got some really interesting pictures of my ancestors on my mother's side. So in the top left-hand corner, that is my great-grandmother and my grandmother as a baby. And I absolutely love that photo. And then we've got my grandmother, my nan, and my grandfather, who I never met, and my brother and my mother, and then me when I was a baby. Oh, it's making me go the wrong way. It's a bit sensitive. So I'm going to skip forward a few years. So after I left home, I went to college and I did a foundation in art and design, and I did a degree in ceramics. And then after that, I still had that yearning to find my father and my ancestry. And I applied for a Winston Churchill Memorial Trust Travelling Fellowship, which I was lucky enough to get. It was really a lot of people, about 15,000 people apply every year. So I was really fortunate to get that. And this is the journey that I took. I was following the journey of three water deities, or Orisha, which is Ocean, Yamoja, and Oya. And this is when I went to Nigeria, and I was really fortunate that I had some connections when I first went to Nigeria. So I was going from West Africa to Brazil, following the journey of traditional religion and sacred art. And I was really lucky to meet some people in Brighton, where I was living, who put me in contact with some friends in Nigeria who helped me out. So these are some of the pictures of the people I met there. So I'm with the Ionifa of Lagos. She's the head of all the women's groups in Lagos. And then we've got the chief priest of Olokun, and we've got Prince Wale, and I can't pronounce his name, so I'll give it a try, Egbarumbe. And I went to the Arunmila Temple International, which was an amazing experience. And they sang a song, Welcome Me Back to the Land of My Father. So that was really incredible. And in the bottom left-hand corner, you can see Suzanne Wenger, who, now she was in her 80s when I met her, so this was quite a few years ago, so I'm presuming that she is not still alive, but I don't know that for sure. And she was the priestess of Oshun in Oshogbo. And then the bottom right-hand corner, that's Doyin, who helped me, take me around, show me around the sacred groves. And it was just like a really incredible and formative experience. So we've got the metal gate outside the sacred groves, and we've got this beautiful shrine also there. So after I went to Nigeria, I went to Ghana. So while I was in Nigeria, so going back a little bit, I met some artists, Kunle Caxton Martin and his wife, Tokumbo, and they helped me to create this batik. So obviously I wasn't working with clay while I was there. I was working in textiles because it's much more portable. So I created this batik of the ocean goddess, and I took part in the Woman and Earth conference in Accra in Ghana in 2000, the year 2000. And I created a shrine to the ocean goddess, and she was looking over the Atlantic Ocean, and I wanted to really send some healing energy across the Atlantic, across that middle passage where the enslaved Africans would have been taken to the Americas and to Brazil in particular, because that's where that's the journey I was making. So after a short break, I went to Bahia in Brazil and the Festa de Iemanjá. And that was an incredible experience. And the lady in the blue and white, I don't actually know her name. I never found her name, but I was told that she was the oldest priestess of Iemanjá, who's Yamoja, who's Yamaya, who's the ocean goddess. And this is an incredible festival where people go and bring flowers and offerings and send their prayers, and they wade out onto boats, and basket of flowers all go out to the sea in praise of Iemanjá. And in the bottom right hand corner, this was a miniature shrine. So I made this is when I came back. So this is kind of where my work was kind of going at the time. So I was working with mixed media and using clay, the ceramic figure, and then kind of different elements to create these miniature shrines. So while I was actually in Ghana, part of my journey was to look for and hopefully find my father. And some of you might know that I actually did find him. I'll just kind of go forward a bit here. So this is when I came back. So I'll just rewind a bit. So the journey to find my father, like I say, if you remember earlier, I showed you that bit of paper that had all the information about my dad and where I could find him. So like I said, I was brought up in a white British family, and I always yearned to find that African side of me, to find my father, who was from Ghana in West Africa. So while I was getting ready to go on this journey, I met a man in London. I'd gone to London to gather some things that I needed to take with me. Back then, you know, we didn't have all this tech. I was buying a mini disc player on Tottenham Court Road, and I met someone in a shop. And I used to, if I met anyone who was from Ghana, I would always tell them my story, just in case they could help or they might know my dad. And yeah, this person I met, he said, oh, my father will help you. So he got in touch, sent all the details through. And then when I arrived in Ghana, I actually met one of my cousins. And he told me that my dad was actually alive and well and living in London. So I came back and I met my father. So this is him, James Yao Appiah. He came with me when I received my Churchill Fellow Award. You were kind of given a coin. So he came with me to that. And these are some of my relatives. So some of my sisters. I'm learning more and more that I've got more sisters. I've got some sisters in Ghana that I didn't know about. I've only just recently discovered. Now, sadly, my father recently passed away, and I'm actually going up to London tomorrow. In fact, his funeral's on Friday. So yeah, it just feels even more important that I'm doing this work. And yeah, I just wanted to share that with you, that I found my dad, and he's was a lovely man, and welcomed me into the family. Everyone knew about me. I was never a secret. So it was really incredible feeling to meet my family. So I'm just going to go back to this slide. So this is some of the work that I did when I came back from that journey. So the top left-hand corner, that piece is called Where Are You From? And if you're a person of colour living in Britain, then people always ask, where are you from? And it's, oh yeah, I'm from Liverpool. No, where are you from? Where are you really from? So yeah, this is kind of the ancestors that I know. So on my mother's side, there is some Dutch and German, and then there's the Ghanaian flag, and then the British Union Jack. And one of the things that I always say to people about my journey to Africa was it really helped me to connect with my Britishness and just realize how English I actually was and am. You know, I was very polite, and so it's really nice that I have got this acceptance of myself. You know, I've got my African side and I've got my British side, and this is how I kind of bring it all together. And this piece down here on the right is, that's me. It's a photograph of me on textiles in the Ocean River in Oshogbo. And that piece is about Ocean, who's the goddess of beauty and love and really, really incredible, powerful Orisha. And then this one you might recognize, it was inspired by my first trip to Cornwall before I ever lived here, the Mermaid of Zena. So, so that piece was inspired by her. I'm going to go forward a couple of slides now. So on to, so then I moved forward with my creative practice, and I was fortunate enough to receive a grant from the Arts Council to put on an exhibition in Hastings called Sanctuary. And this is something I'd wanted to do. It took me about 4 years to make this happen. I'd had this dream that I wanted to create an exhibition at St. Mary in the Castle. It was an art gallery at the time, but it also had this amazing crypt area at the back. And I wanted to create the shrines within that. And I worked with two of my friends, Irene and Raphael. Now, sadly, Irene has now passed, and she has entered the realm of the ancestors. And this makes this even more poignant that we had this opportunity to work together. So I acted as the curator, and I was also the artist, and I project managed the whole thing. So I'll show you a few bits of that. So this was one of the pieces that I did. So this is in the back of the gallery, there's this incredible sort of archways, and I created Aqualuna. So this was inspired by the ocean goddess Mamiwata. So this is a sculpture I did. It was raku sculpture. So I was kind of still working with clay, but this is kind of very much mixed media, a mixed media piece. That's me. That's what I used to look like when I was younger. And this is Raphael's work. And he makes these incredible spirit sculptures. He finds and salvages wood from the sea. He actually lives in Rottingdean, which is not far from Brighton, and he's got this incredible space up at Stanmer Park now, and it's just absolutely stunning. And I'm hoping to be going up there at some point to host a grief ritual. So that's kind of something that will be coming on, and you can find out a bit more about that. And this is Irene's work. So again, and Irene was also of Ghanaian heritage, British Ghanaian heritage, and she didn't know her father either. And so this is some of her textile mixed media pieces. And she also made a dance film, which we screened in the crypt, which I thought was just so incredibly powerful. And this piece, I've still got this. It's up in my studio. If you've been to my studio, you might have seen it. It's a bit worse for wear. But this is when I started working with the Adinkra symbols. So like I said, this is about my work, my journey and my connection. And this is how I've kind of created that connection and brought through that ancestral and ancient African wisdom. And this piece was inspired by the story of Catherine of Alexandria, who was a saint, Catherine. And one of the things that I found really fascinating was going from Africa to Brazil and seeing how the Orisha had been hidden behind the Christian faith. So when enslaved Africans were first taken to Brazil, they weren't actually allowed to have their own religion or traditions. They weren't even allowed Christianity, and it was actually some renegade priests who kind of brought them and helped them to kind of connect with Christianity, which meant that then they could find a way to connect and worship their own spirits and have their own traditions hidden behind Christianity. So this was why I was really interested in the saints as well, the Catholic saints. I find it really fascinating how different saints are equated with the different Orisha. So this one was inspired by Catherine of Alexandria and the story of how she was beheaded and her blood flowed like milk. I can't remember the whole story now. This is such a long time ago when I did this piece of work. And then she was strapped to this wheel, this spiked wheel. So that's kind of where the wheel comes in. And I've used different elements. I've got some of my hair, some of my dreadlocks on there. I used to have dreadlocks. And I've got a snake skin. I got somebody who kept snakes. When the skin shed, they saved it for me. I've got my wisdom tooth on there. I've got bones. So kind of just using all these different elements. Yeah, that's still in my studio. So you ever come and visit me, you can see that one. And this is ancestral cycle. So this is when I realized how much, when I look back, how important the ancestors have been throughout my journey. So I found this amazing kind of wheel, and around it I've got like my plaited dreadlocks, and I was printing images of my ancestors and the Adinkra symbols onto this piece. And again, this is in that beautiful crypt area. And then I've got a shrine to Oshun and Wanti Yamoja and Mamiwata, who I mentioned earlier. Oh, and this is some of the events that we did. And it was interesting looking back at these photos because I'd forgotten a lot of this. And I was like, oh yeah. So during that exhibition, we did a lot of outreach work. We worked with different community groups, and then we brought people into the gallery and we did ritual in the gallery. People were creating tokens and offerings for their ancestors. And that was just such an incredible, powerful experience. And it's like now that my son is older and I've got a bit more freedom to play with my work and my creativity, it's like it's coming back round. So I'm kind of like coming back full circle, which kind of it makes sense if you see where my work's been and where it's heading. It kind of makes sense that I kind of had a bit of a break while I was bringing up my son, but now I'm kind of getting ready to kind of go out on a sort of slightly in a bigger, more ambitious way. So we moved to Cornwall. So like I say, this is a bit of snapshot. So there's kind of lots of things that happened in between. I met Leon's father, obviously, and had Leon. Sadly, that relationship didn't last, but we did stay really good friends. Unfortunately, he's actually passed away as well. So again, there's been a lot of grief in my life. I've lost my mother, now lost my father. You know, I think most of my uncles and aunts are gone now, and yeah, I'm Leon's father. So, you know, we've had to deal with a lot. And I've also lost a good close friend of mine recently. So it just kind of makes me realize how important it is to really make the most of what we've got, to really appreciate our family and friends and enjoy beautiful Cornwall. So moved to Cornwall. This is me and Leon, and this is me in my van, which I've just sold. So this is my favorite beach at Sennan, and I built my own raku kiln. So I kind of set myself up. Here I am stood in front of my studio door. So I've always had a studio, and this is probably, I had a shed for a while, and then I had a couple of other studios, and then this is the studio I've got currently. It's near St. Buryan, not far from Penzance. So this is the work that I created when I moved to Cornwall. So I got totally inspired by the gorgeous turquoise seas and the cliffs. So I created these collections, and I still make this work, and it sells really well. People love the wild Cornwall pots, and they love the sea and cliffs and the fluted pots. If you've known me for a while, you'll know that one of my pots was featured on the Great Pottery Throwdown second season when it used to be on BBC. And Keith Brammer-Jones picked it up and described it as a perfect example of raku. So I'm still proud of that, and people still remember it. So that was then. And I've also been featured in Homes and Antiques. So I've got some amazing photographs they sent a photographer down to my studio, and he's let me keep some of those photographs. So that is wonderful. So that's still going on. I still sell my work through various galleries in Cornwall. I've got one up on the Scottish borders as well. So Udu drums. So this is an interesting story because these are actually instruments. They're drums. So you play them by hitting the open areas. And a friend of mine got in touch, Rasenga Makondo, who's a South African friend of mine, musician. I've known him a long, long time. And he got in touch with me a few years ago, and he was like, oh, will you make me some Udu drums? And I was like, what are they? I've never heard of them. And so I started doing some research, and I was like, I cannot believe I've never heard of them because they are so my shape. And so I looked into the history of them, and again, it's really difficult to know exactly where and when they originated, but they're thought to originate in Nigeria, and they were women's instruments, which I love. So for me, I use them in my rituals and in the grief rituals as a way of calling in the ancestors and the living ancestors to come and support us, and as a way of holding the space for the grief rituals. So they're the Udu drums. And then I've become the family urn maker. So my brother and his wife have commissioned 2 urns for ashes, which felt really incredibly special. And it was only recently that I remembered that he actually asked me. So my mother passed away in 1999, just before that massive trip I did to find my dad. And he asked me at the time, would I make an urn for her? And I couldn't. I was too devastated. But it's only now that I'm looking back that I remembered that. So now I can see all these threads sort of like through my journey. And so then obviously they've come to me again, and I made 2 different ones for them over the last few years. So again, that's something that I do. I work to commission. So I make commemorative pieces. So people come to me, say what they want. I create designs, and then we kind of work together to create what they want. So here's the more recent work. So last year, I was really fortunate to get an Arts Council grant called Develop Your Creative Practice. Now, this is an incredible grant. It's only been going for a few years. And it's the first time there's ever been a really amazing grant that basically gives you the opportunity to develop and try out new work, and you don't have to have an outcome, because often you can get grants, you're putting on an exhibition or you're working with the community or you've got some kind of outcome, but this was purely just to have time to work on your practice. And that is where all this has come from. I had the time to really dive into the Adinkra symbols. I've been researching them, I've been writing about them, I've been writing blog posts about them. I've created these Adinkra divination stones, and I started using these as part of a grief ritual. The grief rituals came about years ago. I did a grief ritual with a woman called Sabonfu Some of the Dagara tribe from Burkina Faso in West Africa. And she has now passed into the realm of their ancestors, but her work lives on. And I was really, really inspired by the work I did with her and the incredible cathartic experience of like taking part in a grief ritual. So I've taken that experience and the work I've done with her, and I've used my art to create grief rituals, which some of you will have taken part in. I did one up in Brighton recently. I've done some for some friends down in Brighton, and I'm also planning, I've got a whole weekend coming up in September in a beautiful place near me, Rosemary Wood. I'll tell you a bit about that later. We're going to spend the whole weekend using clay, creating pieces that will be used as part of the ritual, creating the shrine. So we create the grief shrine together, and the grief shrine is a bowl of water, and I was using the Adinkra symbols as part of that, and a part of that release, and also as messages from the ancestors. And these are some of the pieces that I made. This was again during that year that I had to develop new work. So I was working with the raku. So again, it's like an ancient raku is an ancient Japanese technique. I'm bringing in the ancient Adinkra symbols, and these are some of the pieces that I made. So recently, I'd made all this work. I didn't know where it was going, what I was going to do with it. And then I heard about an exhibition called Captured Beauty that was going to be on at Newlyn Art Gallery. And there's a curator called Abby Hutchinson from Black Voices Cornwall was putting on the show. There's been this whole series of exhibitions in Newlyn Gallery and the Exchange where they've worked with community groups to curate exhibitions. So a lot of the exhibition was taken from the Arts Council collection. And then there was a few local Black artists who were invited to show their work. So I got in touch with Abby back in January, and I was like, yes, I really want to do this. I've got this work that I'm working on. I'm not quite sure where it's going, but I know that this could go in this exhibition. So I hadn't quite finished all this work. And it just all came together, and I created an installation in the gallery. So I've used these thermal blocks, which work really well. And my guardians, mothers of the moon, who are like the ancestors who are there to, I wanted this piece to look like a ritual was about to take place, or a ritual had just taken place. And if you see down the front, I brought in the pebbles from the beach. So Newlyn Gallery is really close to the beach, and it's one of the few beaches around here that actually is pebbly, so brought all the pebbles in. And actually during, as part of the exhibition, I did an ancestral healing ceremony, and it was an invitation only, and it was exclusively for people of colour and for us to heal our ancestors and our ancestral lineage. And we did a beautiful ceremony in the gallery. We had the gallery to ourselves in the evening, lights were low. I got everyone to help to recognise and call in and commemorate their ancestors. And then we took the bowl of water full of the stones that we've wrapped with twine and bay leaves. And we took those down to the ocean, and we offered them to the ocean for healing. And we were fortunate to have a little seal pop its head up during that time. So that was fantastic. So that's the work that I've been doing recently. I've just taken that back from the gallery now. So that's in my studio. Not quite sure where it's going or what's happening next with that. But I was so excited to be part of that show. It's been a really big deal for me. It was an amazing experience working with the gallery. They were really supportive. Yeah, I've had a really good response. I've had people stopping me in the street saying they've seen my work. There's people I know, obviously, but you know, it's still a really nice feeling. So I'm aware that there is some questions in the chat, and I will come back round to those. I'm just in the flow now, so I'm just going to keep going. So I mentioned earlier that I'm hosting grief rituals, and I've created this transformational full moon women's healing retreat, and this is the first retreat I've run, and I've kept it for women or people who identify as female women for this first retreat. And it's a beautiful house in West Cornwall, Rosemary Wood. And I love this quote from William Blake: "The deeper the sorrow, the greater the joy." And that's really at the heart of all this work that I'm doing. My mission is to bring more joy and beauty and colour into the world. And I know that if we're holding on to grief and sorrow, then it's really hard to access that joy. So, and I've discovered that I have this gift to help people to connect with their grief and to release at least some of that grief. I mean, it's an ongoing process. I mean, Sir Bonfer always used to tell me that they would have a grief ritual every month in the village. It was just, that's just what they did. And grief isn't just about losing a person. It can be losing a pet, losing a loved one, losing a way of life. You know, we have lost so much over these last few years. It could be the loss of a relationship, you know, whatever. It is still something that we hold within our bodies. And you know, funerals and memorials, they're really important, and they help us to say goodbye to our loved ones. But really, we don't get to really release that grief. So, you know, we need to wail, we need to scream, we need to just release it. And so that is kind of what we do in the grief rituals. So I just wanted to share that with you. If you are interested, then you can get in touch with me, drop me an email, or go onto my website. You can read more about it. I've still got a few places left, and I'd absolutely love if you could join me. And if you want to have a one-to-one chat with me about that, see if it's right for you, then just get in touch. So this is what I'm offering. So I've created Ashanti Moon Healing Arts. So Ashanti is my father's people from Kumasi in West Africa, and the Ashanti people were warriors. And I think that's kind of something that's really helped me to move forward and be strong, be a warrior. And obviously the moon, because I've always connected with the moon. I've always had strong dreams and got messages from my dreams and connected with my ancestors through that, my dreams and my intuition. So that's kind of why I called it Ashanti Moon. So as alongside the ceramics that I create, I also am open to commissions. If you ever want something commissioned as for a special to commemorate a loved one. I recently did a piece where I actually incorporated someone's ashes into an udu drum that I made, which was kind of a really incredible experience, and I felt so honoured to make that piece of work. I also offer one-day grief rituals. Again, it's working in nature, using art and creating community to really release some of that grief in a safe space. And then there's the retreat. So again, this is my first retreat, but I'm expecting that I will go on to do more in the future. So there's my website. You probably know that already. Or if you want to email me, you could email me info@lucktaylorceramics.co.uk. So I'm going to have a quick look at the chat, and then I'm open for questions. Okay. Thanks, Zoe. Yes, you will remember we were dreadlocks. I had them for like 18 years, do you believe it? And I cut them all off. Oh, right, your niece's dad is Ashanti. Oh, that's incredible, Zoe. I never realised that. Well, thank you very much. So I'd like to ask you if you'd like to ask any questions. You're welcome to speak the questions, or if you want to put them in the chat, that's fine. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. There we go. Hi, back again. So thank you so much for being here. I really, really appreciate it. Now, has anyone got any questions before? I would like to do a short meditation with you before you go.
I was curious, on your alchemical wheel, what were the symbols you used on that, Catherine?
Oh, that was the, oh, I can't remember what was there now. I think I used Jinayami, which is, that's a symbol, an Adinkra symbol that is about the omnipresence of God, and that's kind of like a really powerful symbol.
Yeah.
Hang on, let me go back to that. I'm going to share that again and go back to that, because that'd be easier to. Here we go.
Oh.
So that one. Yeah. So that one here, that's the. Oh no, that's the Jinayami. So that one is about the omnipresence of God. And that is everywhere in Ghana. That's kind of like really popular, but you don't often see that outside of Ghana. This one you may recognize is Sankofa, which again, that's one of the symbols that is everywhere, and it's about going back in time and bringing forward what is useful to the present day, and that's kind of really relevant to our time now. I can't remember what that one is. I'd have to look that up and get back to you. And that one I think is Jienkiem. Again, this is quite a while when I made this one. And that I think was a symbol of one of the great kings of Ghana.
Okay. Is there a book that sort of shares all these things, or?
You know what, there is one book that I've got, but it doesn't have a lot of them in. There is one book that is out of print that I haven't managed to get hold of, because there are hundreds of these symbols. Yeah. Yeah, there's hundreds. So I've kind of like been researching them, and I mean, I have got some information, and I've started putting them down and writing a book about them. But there's one dictionary of Adinkra symbols that I don't know if it's out of print, that I haven't managed to get hold of,
Okay.
Which I'm trying to get hold of. So if I do find it, I know a few people who'd like it, so I will definitely get a few copies of it. But I'm starting to share more about the Adinkra symbols, and I've written some pieces on my website. And if you are on my email list, I'm going to be sharing more about them very soon.
And you did an exhibit of, there was a little piece that you'd mixed media with Mami Water.
Yeah.
And then next to it, there was a kind of symbol with different arrows. And I just wondered, was that what that meant at the time?
Well, that was a sigil I found. I can't remember where I found it. And a sigil is a magical symbol, a symbol that has magical powers within itself. And it was used, it can be, often you see it kind of like used, it'll be like chalked on the ground and kind of like used as part of like rituals. So that was one I found, and it was kind of connected with water spirits, but I can't remember where I found it, but I loved that symbol. And I feel like the Adinkra symbols are like that. They have a power of their own. I think
like
objects,
Reiki symbols, aren't they?
Yes.
Almost put them on their hands. And
yes.
Yeah.
And I think that anything we create has a power of its own in itself, but I think symbols, especially when they've been used over time, I think they just take on that energy, and that's what I really love. And what I found is when I'm using them within the rituals, people will just randomly choose a symbol, and it's just so apt and just so pertinent to what's going on in their lives right now. Yeah. So Zoe, you've got your hand raised.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I just want to say how beautiful your work is. I mean, it's just it's really just speaks to me somehow on a level, and I'm really intrigued by the various water spirits you're talking about. And you know, well, we met in Brighton about 30 years ago, whatever it was. And then, you know, you're saying you're from Liverpool, you're talking about Hastings, and then you're living here in Cornwall, close to the sea again. And like, do you have some particular link with the water and whatever? And I just wanted to, before you answer, I just want to say about Mami Water, because when I worked in Ghana briefly, and I found that the way that spirit was spoken about, and just in the newspaper and things, people would blame her for like getting weird and things, and it was just very clearly a very present and very engaged. And I'm just wondering, if you could say anything about water and why you're picking water spirits, and like me, you seem to live by the water a lot. And
it's interesting because obviously I didn't grow up near water, because I was in Liverpool, like in a city, but obviously we used to do day trips and cross the Mersey,
got a dock and all that.
And I've always kind of like yearned to be by the sea and by the ocean. And it wasn't till I actually went to Nigeria, and like I'd already connected with the Orisha. So in the Ifa tradition from Nigeria, there's kind of one main god who's Olodumare, and then there's all the Orisha who are like they're nature spirits. They're almost like on the angelic realm, and you petition them to connect to the divine. So, but everyone is born with an Orisha or two Orisha, even if you don't know it, everyone has their Orisha. So when I went to Nigeria, I was actually told, a priestess of Ifa tradition told me that I had Yemoja and Oshan, who are my Orisha. So that kind of makes sense how I connect with the sea and the river. I love waterfalls and, you know, all the rest of it. And I just kind of run with that. And I think for me also, water, it just connects everyone, and we're 80% water. I've always had a connection with the moon, and you know, where the moon rules the tides, and obviously it influences us as well, whether people are aware of it or not. You know, they're always going about the full moon, the new moon, and I know you know all of this. So I think those things have just kind of been really important, and just keep coming back into my work. So the moon, the dreams, the water spirits, and just that connection with nature as well. And
the blues are amazing. I just love it.
Thank you. I mean, that's what brought me to Cornwall. Like when I first ever visited Cornwall, the first time I saw that turquoise sea, I could not believe I was in England. It was So yeah, I just had to be here. So yeah, I absolutely love it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Zoe. I really appreciate you being here. And it's just so nice that having known you for so long and seeing what you're doing now and just how we've grown and developed. It's just incredible, isn't it? So is there any more questions?
Yes. How do you manage to get smudge-free pots when you've raccooed them?
I've been doing it for a very long time, and it's about the thickness of the glaze. You know, I kind of know how thick the glaze needs to be for it to run a certain amount, depending on the size of the piece. You know, a bigger piece, the glaze is going to run more at the top than it will at the bottom, so it's kind of like all those things, and it's like such an alchemical process that it is just like trial and error and just knowing what works for me. It's kind of like finding what works. Have you done raku before?
Yes, I have. Obviously you've got to brush it all off, haven't you? But sometimes I have like bits missing.
Oh really?
or a smudge somewhere, you know.
Oh.
So, and I don't know why.
No,
and you know, and maybe I'm over cleaning or something. I don't know.
Yeah, sometimes if you don't glaze a piece straight away, like if it's been left and it gathers dust, then that can affect how the glaze fits to the pot. It might just be the recipe you're using as well, and the clay. So if you know, I use like Ashraf Hana, which is a really good quality raku clay, and that works really well. And also sometimes if you smoothed out the pot too much and then put the glaze on, then it won't stick. So those are some of the things that you can try to remedy that.
Your pots are wonderful. I just love that colour, that blue. It's mesmerising. It really is. Yeah.
I love it.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Thanks, Ray. I appreciate your kind words. Oh, you saw my work in Falmouth. Oh, that's probably beside the wave. Yeah, I sell a lot of work in that gallery there. So is there any more questions?
I think so.
If you're not already on my email list, because I know that obviously I did this event through Eventbrite, so I'm not going to just take your emails unless you want to be on my email list. So yeah, just let me know if you do want to, and then I can kind of like keep you updated of things that I'm up to. If anyone's interested in doing some more work with me, if you want to know more about the grief rituals, or if you would like to know more about the retreat, then do get in touch. Thanks, Olwyn. I'm really glad you like the history behind my work. Yes, intuition is really important in your work. And I think that the older I get, the more I connect with my intuition, I think. So before we go, if there's no more questions, I can see you all now. I thought it'd be nice just to, it's actually the new moon today. And when I work with the grief rituals, I often try and do them around the full moon, because that's very much about releasing and letting go. So the new moon is more about setting an intention for what you want to happen in the future, for the next month, for the next few weeks. And I just thought it'd be really nice to just finish off now. I really appreciate you being here, just to finish off with a short meditation, and we can think about what we are grateful for, what we would like to take forward from today, and what's our intention for ourselves or for anyone else. What's our intention to move forward, thinking about creativity and how we were all creative and we all have that ability within us, whether we think we are or we're not. I firmly believe that everyone's got that within us. So if we just take a moment, if you would like to, you can close your eyes, you don't have to, but just take a breath. Oh, let's take a deep breath in and release it and just relax. And then if you will, if you imagine that out from the base of your spine or the soles of your feet, you have roots that are going down into the earth, breaking through the floor of wherever you are, through the earth, around the rocks, past the streams and the water and the underground water that's there, the water table. Feel the roots going down into the earth. Just feel yourself just sinking down, feeling the weight of your body. Feel the roots going down to the depths, to the core, to the molten, hot core of the earth. Then draw that heat, that golden, orange, red, molten heat up through your roots, up into your body, up through your feet, up your legs. Feel that heat, that molten lava, that beautiful earth energy that nourishes us and supports us. Feel that heat coming up, the healing earth energy coming up until it reaches your heart. If you feel like it, you can place your hand on your heart. Take a breath. And then come up to the top of your head and just open yourself up to that healing energy, to the stars, to the sky. Feel the waves going out up to the sky, through the blue, into the deep space, to the new moon that is still dark. We'll start to see in the next few days. Feel that sparkly moon and star energy and draw it back down those silvery threads, those beautiful silvery threads. Bring that back through your crown chakra, the top of your head. Bring that down through your body until it reaches your heart. And it mingles with that beautiful molten earth energy. Feel that energy mingling in your heart. Feel that energy throughout your body. And now open your heart. Then send that beautiful healing energy out to everyone who's here with us. So grateful that you joined. Send that healing energy. See it going out, spreading out from you to the room you're in, spreading out to the building, the house, the home you're in, spreading out further into the village or town or city where you live, Send that healing energy out. Send it out further to the county, to the area, to the country where you live. Send it out until you can see that energy. It covers the whole globe, the whole world. And we're sending out that loving energy. And just sit for a moment. And just remember that we all have the power to heal ourselves and others, to bring love and joy, to help heal horrible things that go on in the world. We have the power, we can do something about it through our intention, through the way we live our lives, and just going about our day, just inspiring and bringing that loving energy to everyone we meet. And just take a moment and just see what comes to you. What is your intention? What would you like for the next month? What would you like to bring into your life? Just use that energy of the full moon to set your intention, what you would like to take going forward. There's no need, you can share if you want, or you can just write it down after we've finished and just set their intention of what you would like to achieve, what you would like to see happen within the next month. So now feel that energy coming back into your body, mingling the lunar energy with the earth energy. Just feel that peace and that calm when you just come to be still and just be present. Take a deep breath in. Release. And slowly open your eyes. Just give yourself a... Move your body. Shake your hands. Shake your head. Just come back to the present. Oh, we can do that anytime we feel like we want to connect. We want to feel that positive, loving energy. It's what we do matters, and what we create matters. And I'm feeling a bit emotional now, and I'm so grateful that you're here with me. And I just hope you'll continue on this journey with me. Maybe join me for a grief ritual. And like I say, if you want to get in touch, just drop me an email, or if you follow me on social media, DM me and just stay in touch. And if you'd like to, I will send out one email asking if you want to join my list, and I've got a little gift that I want to send you, but I'm not going to bombard you with emails if you don't want to hear from me, but just so you know. It might be next week, because like I say, I'm going up to London tomorrow. I've got my father's funeral this weekend with all the family. So when I get back next week, I will be in touch. I'm so grateful that you came and you shared this journey with me. I've never really shared it fully before. I've told a few people my story, but it feels really good just to share and let you know what's been going on my creative journey. And bless you all. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
You.
Bye-bye.
Well done.
Bye.
Lovely.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Catherine.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.